Hey guys, it's me, the Gendo Gamer, and today I'm going to show you some of the most underrated and sometimes just plain weird shaders that you haven't heard of. I'll be linking the shaders, the resource packs, and everything you need to run those shaders down in the description. Anyways, let's go ahead and get right into the video. Okay guys, the first shader on this list is called Photon. It is an Optifine exclusive shader currently, and it just has some of the best clouds I've ever seen. It's a little bit darker and more hazy than usual right now due to a cloud covering the sun a little bit, but it's just amazing. The reflections, as you can see here in my failed attempt to make an iron golem look great, there's a little bit of noise here, but not much. It's really not noticeable. Also, tell me if you know why that iron golem didn't work. We also had in here, we noticed a little bit of diffused lighting around the edges of these snow blocks, or other blocks that are slightly translucent like ice or leaves. So a very nice effect there. The water also looks very good, especially from the outside. You notice a little bit of, I forget what this effect is called, on the bottom of the water. Looks very nice. Now let's go ahead and test the weather, since this one has some interesting weather effects. Basically, the clouds form super slowly, which is, some shaders do that, some others have them form really quick. I personally like it when they form quickly, even if it's a bit less realistic, since it's also a bit weird when it's raining and there's no clouds in the sky. And it happens sometimes in real life, but not every time. You know? Also, the puddles aren't that great. There's not like any rain splashing, and they're really not that reflective. You just see a slightly like lighter wavy spot on the ground. It's really not that great. Let's go ahead and check out the nighttime visuals. Now at night, any light leaking that could occur is definitely a lot more apparent, but a lot of shaders have this issue in 1.18 forward. I must say the color grading on this shader is perfect. I really like how they chose the style of that portion. And the stars, you see a little bit of blue up there. It's just perfect. Right now it's still a little bit cloudy, but I mean, these clouds come at a huge cost. I'm only getting 60 FPS with a 3070 laptop GPU, so this is very performance intensive. But if you can run it, I would give it a shot. I might honestly switch to it rather than SUSE PTGI, just because the clouds. PTGI has some great graphics, but the clouds are just they're not very good. They're not very good. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next shader. Okay guys, the next shader on the list is called Unsquare. I'm uncertain if it only works on Optifine or not, but the effect is obvious. It doesn't have any lighting effects. Instead, it changes the textures to not have pixels, like square pixels, and it makes blocks not perfectly square. It basically removes all squares, hence the name, on players, entities, everything. And it's a really interesting effect, and it kind of breaks a little bit sometimes, but honestly, oh, you notice a little bit of reflection here that's not vanilla, so it has a little bit of lighting effects. Honestly, if there was a version of this without the pixel not square thing and some lighting effects like a normal shader, I would honestly prefer this, or have a feature like this in normal shaders. I think the idea of having a ground that's a bit uneven is an interesting idea, and it's just kind of fun to mess around with for a while. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next shader. Okay guys, the next shader on the list is called Ortho shader pack. It is made by the same creator, and pretty much it makes Minecraft look like this, which is super strange. Now, just a warning when using this, in order for it to look good, you have to go into the shader settings and change the minimum so that the bottom half of the screen actually renders. For some reason, with me, I don't know why it's like that by default. But this is certainly is this snowing? But it is a very interesting way to play the game, and I wouldn't recommend using it on servers due to the X-raying you can do with it. But if you want to mess around and try to play Minecraft like this, it is a very interesting way to play the game and very difficult. What happens if I go in a building? Oh, just like that. You also can take some very interesting screenshots with this. But yeah, that's all there is to it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next shader. Okay guys, next shader on the list is called the DyingLightShader. It's made by the same creator as the new path tracing shader Apollo, which is paid. This though is free, and it basically tries to recreate the graphics in a game called Dying Light. So it's a bit apocalyptic, it's very foggy in the morning and looks like just during the noon, and you can see the sky is a little bit hazy, almost like it's been polluted a little bit, I'd say. And the color grading is very toned down and slightly reddish. If we set time to night, you will notice we have a flashlight in the center of our screen. Now, this is my idea. I wish it was an effect like this connected to like a mod or something, if that was even possible. Because this is a very cool looking flashlight. I don't know why the lights are blue. Are all lights blue in this? Hold on. Yeah, lights are blue for whatever reason, which is certainly strange. There is also something called survivor sense in this. So if I can find like a hostile mob, I'm here. If I hit shift, it activates survivor sense, and I can see the hostile mob through walls, which is very cool, and probably makes it illegal on some servers. But that's just a really cool effect. Anyways, that's all there is to this interesting shader. Let's go ahead and move on to the next shader pack. Okay guys, the next shader on the list is called the Vaporwave shader, and it makes things look like that. Whatever this is. It's certainly a cool effect if you wanted to play it on like a cyberpunk map and like you're in the Matrix or something like that. The sky looks cool, and everything for whatever reason is wavy, like the ground is made of water or something, which I don't completely get. And if we go and said /time said night, let's see what the skybox looks like at night. There you go. It's very, very purple. This is a very weird shader, but if you find a use for it in like a themed mod pack, for example, that would be a very cool use case for it. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next shader. Okay guys, next shader on this list is called Bliss, and it is hands down the best performing shader for this level of visuals. According to them, it has 100 FPS on a 1060, which I don't know if I believe that, since, well, it's actually might be possible. I have an RTX 3070, I'm getting 80 FPS, which is crazy for how good this looks. It has a lot of cool features like biome specific fog in swamps and jungles, and that's something that I'm pretty sure is unique to this shader. I haven't seen another shader with something like that. And as you can see, there's a cloud covering the sun now. The bloom and reflections usually just look about as expected, I'd say. And we go ahead and look at what it does during the rain. It's definitely much better than Photon. You see a lot of more fog. The rain petals, while also not perfect, look a lot better for sure. They are actually reflective, which I think is like a bare minimum requirement. And if we go ahead and take a look at what it looks like at night, well, I don't see any stars for some reason. There's not much to see here. The clouds, the moonlight on the clouds definitely look great though. I'd say that. Another thing I forgot to look at was also the water, and I'd say the water looks pretty dang good. I think I like the water in Photon better, personally. Yeah, I'm not sure. The skies in this are very nice also, but I don't think they're as good as they are in Photon. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next shader. Okay guys, the next shader on the list is called the Epoch shader, and it makes things look like they recorded with an old camera if you say wanna sell definitely fresh salmon for 45 cents a pound. Definitely fresh. And it looks really cool. You see little lens effects as I turn my screen. There's scan lines, and it's very cool. There's a few different presets they have, such as the default VHS tape, B&W film, which is broken for me right now. Could just be my GPUs or something isn't compatible. I'm not sure. Color film, anamorphic lens, JPEG mode, which is yeah, about as expected. Or disabled for some reason. But yeah, that's all there is to it. Download it today, link in the description. Let's go ahead and move on to the next shader. Okay guys, the next shader on the list is called Makeup Ultra Fast. It is compatible with Iris, and it pretty much prides itself in having really good FPS, which on my computer 3070, I'm getting 130 FPS on Extreme Plus, and that's a bunch of different default settings, ranging from literally one without shadows to this beautiful thing. And it looks pretty good. The color grading's nice. There's a nice lens focusing effect on Extreme Plus. The clouds look interesting, to say the least. They're stylistic, I'd say, almost. And they look pretty dang cool. The water and ice looks good. For some reason, there's something weird happening here with the ice and the water. I'm not gonna question it though. The water, it's a little bit of a darker blue, but it looks nice. There's like no fog to speak of underwater, like just barely anything underwater. Isn't that great, but great FPS. Then if we turn on the rain, there is no puddles to speak of, as they would definitely be bad for FPS. But there is quite a bit of fog for the FPS I'm getting. 90 currently. Oh, we're catching the sunset. That's beautiful. But let's go ahead and look at it at night. And it looks pretty average, I'd say. It's strangely bright, I'd say, for being moonlit. It looks almost like day, but with white instead of yellowish light. Not perfect, but there are settings and you should be able to easily fix that, unless you like being able to see clearly at night. Like for a PvP situation, for example. Anyways, let's go to move on to the next shader. Okay guys, the next shader on the list is called Ominous, and it pretty much makes things look like this. Now, you can make the colors one color if you want to do some cool spooky effect, but this, for some reason, is what it's like by default, and it's hard to see, and a little bit ominous, but mostly weird. Kinda cool looking, though. That's pretty much it. The day and night looks the same. Everything's about how you expect it to be, judging by what it's trying to do. But it's very customizable. Anyways, let's go and move on to the next shader. Okay guys, the last shader on the list is called Randomizer, and pretty much it randomizes the texture of everything. So like, here's a path block, and the side of the iron door, the top's the respawn anchor things. I don't know why this is just black. There's carrots for the tops of path blocks, so it doesn't care whether it's an item or a block. It just randomizes the grasses, I think, and stone blocks. And it kind of moves the textures on entities around. So like, oh, his face is still in his face. It's just a me thing. My face is literally on my shoulder, which is just the worst. But yeah, it's very, oh, look, saplings for leaves. But it's very weird looking. Well, it looks toxic. But it'd make for an interesting game mode. Kinda hurts your eyes though. You can't tell what anything is. But, that's all there is to it. So, thanks for watching, guys. I hope to see you all in the next video or stream. Leave a comment down below if you need help or have any suggestions. I'll be sure to respond as soon as I can. Bye!